Did you really think I wasn't gonna do this video? Did you think I just forgot? You thought I forgot, didn't you? Lucky for you, I never forgot. Oh, wait, I need these. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, okay. Yeah, just yell at me. I know. I'll wait. Just go ahead. Yell all you want. Yell at me. Slap me if you want. Boom. I did it myself 3 fucking times. I'm late. I'm so sorry. In my defense, though, I'm not ungodly late. It's still the very beginning of the new decade. The last video I did by itself took me a good 3 to 4 days to finish. When you work with a lot of content or have to have a lot of anxiety and have to rethink everything that you did throughout the whole year and everything you watched throughout a whole year, especially when you watch the amount of movies like I do, you get very tired. You want to take a break. I have stuff I want to do too, man. Give me a break. Why does it sound like I'm talking to one person? Okay. Without further ado, though, ladies and gentlemen, we are officially already in the new decade. We're already in the fresh new year, fresh as a motherfucker, and this is going to be uploaded by the 7th day of the new decade. But why don't we look back just one more time to the past, and have a good time to look back at what I consider, looking back at everything, a pretty good decade. A lot of great stuff happened. Now, okay, let's start. We're first starting with the 2019 year because it was the very last year of this before entering the brand new decade. And it was a pretty good one. I'm not going to lie, guys. Like, I usually like to say every year is a pretty good year for films. 2018 was a solid year for films. There were some big ones, but there were some solid, a lot of disappointing stuff. Not bad at all. Disappointing doesn't mean bad. But things could have been better. And specifically for me as well, it wasn't a really good year. Some bad things happened. It was a mess, but we don't talk about that. 2019 was without a doubt a better year. And I mean, you gotta kind of, I think for every decade, even the shittiest decades, like 1949, the decade where World War II happened, without a doubt probably one of the worst decades of all time. Millions died. I think they even had a good time. They're about to enter the 50s, man. They were probably getting hyped already. Us was kind of the same thing. 19 was a very exciting year to prepare for a lot of big stuff coming up. To end your decade with a bang. You always want to end a big story with a bang, right? Really, by the last 5 years, there's no denial. We went out with a bang. Let's start with it. We're talking about the biggest bangs of this year. Starting with my number 10. Let's go with a nice little comedy that I absolutely loved. If you saw my channel, I reviewed it during August. Little film called Good Boys. Now, I actually was really happy to see Good Boys because it was a film I got to see before I went back to school. It was a pretty nice experience all around. But thank God it was just not just a nice experience, but a great film to add to that experience. I fucking love Good Boys. So you guys know what I think about Seth Rogen. I absolutely love him. I think he's an incredible guy. He's one of my personal favorite comedians and favorite directors. I love The Interview, The Disaster Artist, that project he worked with James Franco, I think was absolutely amazing. This is one of the films he helped make. He wasn't the actual director. I can't remember for the life of me. You guys know how I am with names. I'm absolutely terrible at that. This is probably one of the most personally relatable films I've seen even throughout the decade, honestly, thinking about it. It's one that feels close to home through a lot of things I personally have experienced with my friends or at home. So that's what it really brings a lot of joy to. It's kind of like the film 8th Grade. If you guys haven't seen it, it came out last year, if I'm correct. I saw it this year. Amazing film. Good Boys really goes for that kind of formula with the classic middle school kids with some Superbad mixing with all the cussing and all the adult stuff, the kids having to deal with frat boys to steal some drugs for some girls. It's an absolutely balls-to-the-wall insane film, but it keeps at its heart the great lovable characters, which is the main protagonist, which is what I love so much. Those cast of Good Boys, there really are some good boys. You gotta love them. It feels weird saying this again. Can we move on? I love the film. It's in my number 10. It, Chapter 2. Stephen King is possibly one of my favorite writers of all time. But really, these last few years, his work has really been on the rise with stuff like 1922 that I finally got to check out for the first time. Not all of it, but a little bit of it. Another film that's coming up soon that's a sequel to his work, or that he wrote. Yeah, no, he also wrote a book about it. So another one of his work, but specifically, It Chapter 2. The sequel to It, that came out back in 2017. I absolutely love. Classic 80s horror vibe. That's really the whole film what it was going for, the classic 80s horror with the little mix of, a little more realism, with kids cussing, once again going back to what Good Boys did so well, the very relatable, teenage, young teen, preteen boys, pretending we're all the shit, that we can do anything in this world, that we're super cool, even though we're probably some of the lamest kids. Every one of us were the lamest kids in middle school. Don't lie to yourself. Yeah, that's what I absolutely love about it. But now It Chapter 2 goes for what has been really the hardest thing to successfully pull off in this franchise for years, which it had struggled with even in the first one back in the 90s, which I even, if you've never heard of what I thought about the first one, has always struggled with. The adult version of it, the adult part, the adult story of it. every goddamn time. Even when the first one, everyone agrees that the best part of the 90s It was the kid sequences. For some reason, when it goes to them being adults, you give absolutely two shits about them. You give zero shits about them. They are the most forgettable, boring, odd choice characters you could ever think about. All I wanted was for this film to make them fun, relatable, caring, and close this story well. They did that and more. I really love this goddamn director. I actually discovered that. I can't remember. I think Andy Muschietti was the name of the director. He actually directed Mama a few years ago, which I heard absolutely scared the shit out of a lot of my friends years ago. So it's crazy to see that it all comes back around. And that was the guy who actually made it. I can 100% believe that this was the guy that made Mama, because he is a masterful director of horror. Now, but everything was incredible. The cast was excellent. I loved every single one of them, and you care for them throughout the whole way. And Pennywise, Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise is just absolutely mwah. I want to see him do more work. The story was so great all around. I love how the way they closed it, but the characters were really the show stealer for all of this. The story was great and all, but they were the ones you remember out of all of it. Bill Skarsgård is an absolutely excellent actor. I really want to see him more in the future. I hope he does a lot more for the 2020s, because he's proven everything he can do. And this wonderful cast is just... they're perfect. If anything, I want to see more. That's what my thoughts on it, Chapter 2. More, please. Anyway, moving on. Number 8 is actually, I really was debating a lot of where I wanted to put this film for the number 8. Because I go up and down about it, because it came out the same year, where I think with the poster I have behind me, it kind of make it obvious what's going to be my number 1. But it's still just like naturally, when you're so excited about a film and you see the one that comes after, you're just... if it's not as good or better, you're just going to be a bit disappointed. But I still absolutely love the film, because Tom Holland's in it, and that really should be more than enough to love it. And yes, it's Spider-Man Far From Home. Ironically, it's part of one of possibly the biggest stories in Hollywood for the entire decade, when Sony and Disney practically had a war with each other to see who gets to keep Spider-Man. It was one of the most awkward divorces I've ever seen. But yeah, it really is in my top 8. But honestly, I love the film a lot. It's, once again, a lot of the films I'm starting to realize I'm talking about has a lot to do with young teen stories. Maybe it's because I'm a teen, so I relate to them more. But yeah, no, it goes for that classic teen kind of storytelling that Spider-Man has just perfected so well. You care about Peter Parker throughout the whole way, and Tom Holland is just... dude, that man was born to be Spider-Man. How to not realize it when I first saw that film about him in the tsunami. He was born to play Peter Parker. Despite it not being as incredible as the film that's going to come up, it still really is a good successor to Endgame. I really love what they do with this, specifically with Peter Parker, and now him having to deal with this post-Endgame world of how everyone is looking to him to be this next Tony Stark, and really how stressful that would be. Imagine that on your arms, on you, making you think constantly that, dude, you know, everyone's looking at you to be this next big thing, but you didn't even know if you wanted to be part of this in the first place, because remember, after the first one, he was ready to be just neighborhood Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood. He was ready to set that role. Now he's being thrown in to be the next god. Like, what the hell are you supposed to expect from him? That was the most insane comparison I've ever done, and I'm not changing that. I love Spider-Man Far From Home. You've all known what I thought about the film. I'm really rambling a lot, so I reviewed a lot of these films. I'm just giving my quick thoughts. If you want to see more exactly what I thought about it, go check out the review. I reviewed Far From Home. I still love the film, though. It's my number 8. Moving on! Number 7. This is the one I actually didn't review, so I do want to talk about it a little more. That's why I'm going a little faster. Jordan Peele. Jordan Peele. I love you, Jordan Peele. You are not just part of my favorite comedic duo of the last decade, Key and motherfucking Peele. Dude, I've literally, before going to do my drama shows, before practice and ready to deal with all that stress, I would bond with people at my new school watching Key and Peele. Key and Peele's helped me make new friends. I love Key and Peele. And now to see Jordan Peele move out of his classic comedy game and go to do more Hollywood kind of work, which was kind of surprising at first. Even before I knew exactly who Key and Peele was, I heard a lot about it. You know, I saw the headlines, comedian wants to be new Hollywood director. It's very shocking. Because, you know, now looking back, it is kind of silly to assume that, you know, a comedian can't be a good director. You know, they're pretty much in the exact same field. You still have to, the goal is to entertain people, and especially they were part of doing sketches, so their whole goal is to write and direct. So, you know, you have to know a little bit about filmmaking if you're going to do those things. And I've never reviewed Get Out. I love it. It's a great film. I don't think it's as good as people say. I think it's a bit overrated. I know it's unpopular. Maybe if someone convinces me, I think it's a bit too much comedy. I think what everyone complains about Marvel, too much comedy a bit in a lot of places that don't belong. And I think Us is, for me, what Get Out should have been. Us was my Get Out. That film was, I watched it last month at my cousin's house with my sister. Maybe because we had an excellent experience. 4K TV, surround sound speakers, all lights off. And the reason I don't know how to describe it is because that ending, the twist that it goes for at the end, really has left me so confused and mind-fucked after I've seen like 5 videos trying to explain it. I don't know if it's one of the greatest horror films of the decade or one of the most disappointing, where I've realized a lot of people have been putting. That's why I was very mixed when it first came out, because the ending really does leave you on a, wait, what the hell is this about? But then again, then I go to my point that I've made a lot of times in the past. Just because the ending doesn't even have to necessarily suck, but be disappointing, does that ruin the other 75% or 80%? Yeah, no, 75% of the film. Does that take away from all of what the film brought to you? I don't think so. Because the 75% of that film is so incredibly perfected, memorable. Every character was loving, interesting, relatable. The horror, oh my god, the horror sequences were. And Jordan Peele, you are a master of horror. Please continue making films. I need more. This is another thing that just makes me want more of anything. But Us is an incredible film. It might even go up as the years go by, the more I learn to understand the film more. Or it might even go down if there's some things I realize that don't make much sense looking back. But loved it so far. Incredible film, and it will without a doubt still at least stay in my top 10 of the 2019 year. Moving on. Number 6. It's Quentin Tarantino. What else do I have to explain? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Classic Tarantino, even at his worst, is an absolutely incredible filmmaker. I was rethinking and even analyzing the shit out of it again today because I just saw the Golden Globes. If you don't wonder, at least I saw who won the Golden Globes. And I was thinking a lot about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood again. And honestly, out of all the films that came out this year, it's ironically one of the weirdest ones because almost, if you notice, a lot of the films I talk about either were super eventful or super touching, almost. Super relatable, super emotional. Once Upon a Time doesn't land on any of those. Maybe the relatability, I can't speak for shit, relatability factor of it, for that classic buddy film that it goes for, but this is one of the most uneventful films I've ever seen. Yet at the same time, it's one of the most entertaining, exciting, and just interesting movie. Yeah, interesting is the right word. Films I've ever seen. You all know I'm a big Hollywood geek. I don't know if you see that sign up there. It says Hollywood. I want to be a director or a screenwriter, so you guys obviously know. I'm doing a whole video about my favorite films of the year. I clearly have an appreciation for film. Quentin Tarantino is one of my personal favorite directors of all time. I fucking love movies. I know who Tarantino is. I know his shit. I love him. I love Pulp Fiction. I have it around here. I've been looking for it all day to do this video. I love his stuff. So when I heard he was making his 9th film and the trailers came out, I was just excited as the next guy. Everybody was excited to see this film. But watching it, and I saw it twice in theaters, by the way. I think I talked about that. Watching it twice, you know, because I've heard so many opinions about it, and I can understand why so many people could be disappointed, because it's such a different film that we're really used to of him. Most of his, everyone knows he's known to be this very extremely R-rated, violent, bloody, and very dirty mouth. If he made Grand Theft Auto the movie, he would make the perfect Grand Theft Auto the movie. Please do that, Tarantino, by the way. I'd love for you to make that. And yet, this is the one where it's none of that until the last 10 minutes. But those other hour is still, or hour and a half, is still so goddamn good, entertaining. Dude, my favorite part of this film was just 2 guys talking while watching TV. Like, there's a reason he won the Golden Globe for screenplay. Because the dude can make 2 guys... I've talked about this, how, like, even in Inglourious Basterds, one of my favorite ones of his films, one of my most favorite parts ever that he's ever directed is literally a Nazi and a Holocaust survivor eating a cake. Eating a strudel. Sorry, I got it wrong the first time. A strudel. And it was I literally, sometimes when I go to sleep, I watch that scene. I know it's weird. I'm into ASMR. Fuck my life. But it's so entertaining and so well made that you're so hooked to it. That's this whole film. This whole movie is the apple strudel scene from Inglourious Basterds. Nothing too tense. well, that was a very tense scene. Nothing too eventful, but it's so well made and it's so entertaining that you're hooked. And I know a lot of people hear that and think, oh, then style over substance. No, because it's not like there's nothing happening. It's two guys trying to get by in the world of Hollywood. But I mean, be honest, how many people, and I didn't have to realize that because I realized my dreams and my aspirations in this is not the same as most people. How many people can really relate to that? But I think that's what Tarantino does so well. And I think what's so magical about film when it's done right, the most unrelatable thing can be the most entertaining thing ever when pulled off right. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is that film. Okay, this is actually going to be really exciting because now we're going into the top 5. We're going into the big ones, boys. This is a film I just watched again, which is why I put it over Once Upon a Time, because maybe it's the hype and maybe because it's just fresh in my mind out of all these films that I absolutely love it. But god damn it, this is just such an incredible film that I had to talk about it. This is, I think, so far, this is the only Netflix-only streaming film I got to pick. You probably know what it is. It's not The Irishman. No, I'm sorry. It's El Camino. El Camino, oh my god. Look, I know The Irishman came out, and I hate to disappoint people, and I should have said this in the beginning. I don't see every film that comes out, okay? There's too many films that come out. I'm only 17. I'm only 17. There's only so much I can do. I have to pick my film selectively. I didn't get to see The Irishman. One day I'll review that. I'm probably going to review it before the Oscars comes out, so don't worry. It probably would have been in the top 10, but I still got to see El Camino, and I have to talk about it. This is probably one of the most odd returns to a show ever. It's not a new show. I know Better Call Saul came out, but that was a prequel, if I'm correct. I never saw it personally, but my teacher was also a huge Breaking Bad fan as well. How are you doing, Mr. Dragoo? I don't know if you'll ever watch these videos. He told me about Better Call Saul, and you have to watch that too. It's an amazing show. Didn't see it, but I know for a fact that's a prequel. He wouldn't lie to me. If you wonder what I think about the show, I think it's one of the greatest shows of all time. Just out there, one of the most interesting shows. How do you, maybe it's because how interesting the crime drama is, but how can you have so many shows and so many pieces of media from the same kind of style of storytelling and still keep it interesting, still keep it up? How does it not become stale? Is crime just that interesting? Is it really that? It has to be that good. Because there's been a billion crime shows throughout the years. Law and Order, fucking Telecrime. That was one of the first shows ever, by the way. Freaking, I'm thinking about more. Batman is considered a crime show or a crime series. And yet Breaking Bad is so good. And the sequel, I think, it doesn't reach the exact maybe legacy, but it 100% honors that legacy. This is an incredible film. Now, it's a very different kind of film, unless you've seen the show. It's not a very classic, because I know I mentioned the word crime, so people will think, oh, crime, action, balls to the wall, insanity. It's not that kind of film where it's all action at all times. It's really a lot more of a psychological drama, kind of like Joker that came out this year that I really appreciate a lot. It's, just to give a little spoiler to explain what it's about, it's a sequel after Jesse Pinkman went through all the bullshit he went through the show Breaking Bad, and is now finally trying to escape this hellhole of a world that he's been into these last few years. He finally wants to go, he wants to escape it all, he wants to start all fresh, but he must do one last thing to finally be for sure out of it. That's the whole film. It sounds rather uneventful, but they make it, the director, God, I wish I knew his name right now. He does it in such a genius way, and they tell it in such a incredibly just eye-catching and emotional level that Jesse, his performance himself, the guy is Aaron Paul, I think his name is, I'm sorry if I forgot. The dude's a legendary actor, one of the best actors of the decade. He makes it so interesting, so relatable and emotional, that it keeps you hooked the whole way. I was watching it again, and I was just focusing on the performance, and I realized, oh my god, like, there's some parts that hit me hard. Like, him calling his parents one more time and apologizing for everything he did. Like, dude, Jesus. The whole movie's incredible. There's a reason why this is, without a doubt, one of the most impactful parts of this decade has been the streaming era, without a doubt, the beginning of all that. Netflix winning their first Oscar with Roma, and now this, and now soon The Irishman, once I go see it. They're kicking ass. Disney Plus also now with The Mandalorian, which I will talk about one day when I start reviewing TV, don't worry. This is just an exciting decade, and El Camino is one of those films that just proves the power of the internet, the power of streaming. Because think about it, guys. It wasn't YouTube, but Netflix is still part of the internet world, without a doubt. They made this. They helped make this. Incredible film. Number 5. Love it. Moving on to my number 4. This is another one that absolutely, dude, I've been wanting to talk about this. I know I reviewed it already, but I still love this film. I don't understand how people can be disappointed by this film. I watched it, even some of it again online, and I still think it's so incredible. I fucking love this film. Dr. Sleep. I already showed it off. I'm gonna show it one more time. You guys know this. I goddamn love The Shining. One of the best horror films ever made. I reviewed it. I'm not gonna explain it more. Go watch it. I did that review now, so whenever people ask me, what do you think about The Shining? There's my video. But seriously, holy shit. When I heard they were making a sequel to it, and I think it was last year when the trailer came out. No. See, the trailer came out, I think, the beginning of the year. Now, if I'm correct. I forgot. I was watching a movie. I think it was fucking Alita Battle Angel. Yeah, best film of the year, am I right? That's watching it. It's just, when I heard they were going to make a sequel to one of my favorite films of all time, you get equally excited and equally stressed out like every good nerd/fan should do. Going to finally watch it, I was not just relieved, I was so impressed. Another guy that's perfected this era of streaming, Mr. What's his goddamn name? I'm going to get it wrong, I know. The guy who directed The Haunting of Hill House, that's what he's known for at this point now, aside from Dr. Sleep. Dude, I love you so much. One of the best horror shows I've ever seen. Incredible, breathtaking, terrifying to the core. When I heard he was directing this, I was more confident, still a little nervous, but more confident and optimistic than ever. He took this film. This is a man that clearly appreciates The Shining, not just because it's Jack Nicholson is in it, it's a Stanley Kubrick film, but why it was good. What made it good and took that and built upon it. This is what Dr. Sleep is. And that's what you sometimes just need. And films like these is why I appreciate filmmaking so much. I know it's a really random film to appreciate it, aside from my number one soon, to appreciate filmmaking for, but it's just everything in it, aside from some moments that I did talk about, not all perfect, is just so nearly perfect. Ewan McGregor's performance, Ewan McGregor, you're not just Obi-Wan now, you're officially Danny to me. You're incredible. Dr. Sleep was amazing. Please go watch it. It's one of the best horror films of the year. And if I'm stupid and insane enough to say it, I'm going to say it. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Of the decade. I don't care. I know maybe it's my fanboyness just talking about it with my rosy glasses, but they're not rosy, so I'm not falling for that bullshit. It's an amazing film. Go watch it. Make your own opinion. Dr. Sleep, number 4. Number 3, this one I'm really excited to talk about because I know what just happened with the Golden Globes. Joker. Joaquin Phoenix. You know, I was the number one, I think, hype man for Joaquin Phoenix when this film was coming out before release. I knew a lot about him before Joker the first time. I got to watch Walk the Line for the first time. I still haven't seen Gladiator, though I do have the film. I bought it specifically once I learned about Joaquin Phoenix. But I saw Walk the Line. He is an amazing actor. Excellent guy. And I know him from Signs as well. One of my favorite actors of the last 20 years. He's incredible. Like, genuinely, I never realized how much that man perfects his roles. It's insane. And the poor man has gone through a lot, which is why I really do feel for a lot of the guy, and that's why it's so inspiring and incredible to see him pull off films like this. But yes, when I heard they were doing a film for Joker, I was extremely nervous. Why? Because DC has been fucking up a lot for the last few years. So when I heard they were making practically what I call a continuation to Heath Ledger's legacy, because that's why they're doing Joker. Heath Ledger is still to this day, to me, the Joker. Like, yeah, nothing changes. Until I saw this film. I know it's really unpopular to a lot of people because I know a lot of Ledger fanboys, fairly, are still out there defending him as the best Joker. And nothing changes of what he did. I think Joaquin Phoenix at least lives up to the legacy of what Heath Ledger did, if not more. He was that good. I know a lot of people find that treason, sinful. Watch the film before you judge. Trust me, you won't regret it. I'm betting that man's going to win the Oscar this year for Best Actor. If not, it's a crime that he didn't. Unless Robert Downey Jr. wins. Moving on. Next one. We're almost there, boys. We're almost there. I'm so excited. We're coming to number 2. Number 2, I'm going to make it quick and obvious because I've talked about this too much in my review. Toy Story 4. You guys know what I think about Pixar. Pixar is the best. Pixar is God. Whenever I'm sad, whenever you're feeling down, you think the whole world sucks, remember, Pixar's made a movie. There's nothing more to be sad about. They're excellent, man. I don't have a Toy Story poster. That is a sin that I don't have a Toy Story poster. Toy Story is some of my favorite films of all time, period. One of my favorite franchises ever. And to see them successfully pull off a sequel that was not just as good, but possibly even better than the last 3 is just, how do you do it, Pixar? Toy Story 4. Now let's go on to my number 1. I've made it obvious throughout this review what it is, and now that I haven't mentioned it and throughout a lot of this. It should have been obvious at this. It should have been obvious at this whole point. Period. Once I did this video, I did the review. You all know what I think about it. You guys know what I felt about the MCU these last few years. I think, without a doubt, aside from the streaming era that has been rising this whole decade, the whole 2010s has been dominated by franchises and reboots. And we do not owe enough thank yous to the guys who did all this, which was the MCU, and one of their kings and legendary films that proved and helped bring this whole franchise world that we live in has now been Avengers Endgame. I genuinely think the Avengers saga, or the Avengers series specifically, not even just the whole MCU, the Avengers, the 4 films, even Age of Ultron, though I do agree is the weakest and is a bit disappointing, is going to be remembered as some of the best films, not just of the decade, but of all time. I'm holding that opinion to death. I will fight anyone who tries to disagree. Do people realize like how challenging and how complicated? Now that I've directed my first film, it was hell to direct 3 people for 5 minutes. For a 5-minute film. Imagine directing up to 25 different people for one film, making them all at least interesting. That is a challenge that I envy. There's a reason it's the Russo brothers and not just the Russo brother. Both 2 people had to come direct 25 different protagonists because it is an insane challenge that you cannot process. Watch the credits of movies sometimes, guys. Watch the credits to Endgame. This was not a one-man job. Too many people were involved in one film. But they pulled it off and more. I've seen this film officially already 6, 7 different times. A film like Endgame is an insane challenge that I don't think people really understand. For me, Endgame is one of the Star Wars of our decade. Avengers for me was the Star Wars of our decade. But Endgame is like Return of the Jedi, since Age of Ultron was a bit disappointing. This was the Return of the Jedi of our decade. Incredible, groundbreaking, memorable characters up the ass, and one of the greatest endings of all time. You cry, you laugh, you scream, you stand up and applaud. That's what my theater did, all 3 times. And I don't regret it. I don't find that annoying. I love it. Endgame was a film like no other. I fucking love that this film came out. And this for me proves, and this is what gives me hope and joy, guys. I know, since I'm the movie guy, I'm going to be happy all the time when a good movie comes up. But whenever you feel that you're down, remember, this was a project made by thousands of different people. While people are out there murdering each other, trying to commit genocide on different kinds of people, or take away the rights of some people because they're fucking assholes, and there's people that are literally helping the world burn at this moment, there are millions of people helping make something to just keep you entertained and emotional and overjoyed for the next 3 hours. This is why I love film. This is stuff like this. This is beautiful. This is pure good. Yes, we can make all the hate comments and bullshit we want against Disney because they ruined Star Wars and they've killed this world with all their franchises and corporateness. Yes, that's all going to be there, and there's no denying that they've done shady shit. We know that. But there's a reason people love them. There's a reason why I love them. This is why you cannot deny the quality and legacy that this film has left. I know I've said this like 5 times, but if anything, I'm just more excited than ever to see what the Russo brothers have coming next. I know they're making a new film for the 2020, and I think it involves Chadwick Boseman as the main protagonist. I'm so godly excited to see it because for the last few years, ever since Winter Soldier, they've proven these motherfuckers know what they're doing. I can't wait to see what more they have in line for us. Endgame is not just one of the greatest films of the year, I think it's one of the greatest films of the decade. And oh my God, I loved it. And ladies and gents, that was my top 10 films of 2019. I know art is beautiful. Whenever you feel like you're going down, realize there's so much beautiful stuff in this world. That's why I love doing videos like these. To show that, hey, if you had a bad day, if you had a bad year, you're missing out, man. There's so much great stuff to enjoy. This is why I love doing this stuff. This is my top 10 films of the 2019. I'll soon be doing top 10 films of the 2010s. I hope you all enjoy this video. Thank you all for watching. What were your favorite films of this year? I really want to know, genuinely, because I have a feeling some of these opinions might be a little unpopular. Just a little. I don't know. It's just me being anxious as hell. Thank you all for watching, and you all have a lovely day. See you guys.